My father, Amardeep Kaleka, lived an American dream but died the American nightmare. In 1982, he fled a racist and violent Indian government safeguarding 2 children and a wife. With lint in his pocket and a turban on his head, he sweat double and triple shifts to build a life for his family and community. Little did he know he would, in the future, face the worst racism here in America. Last year on August 5th in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, he was gunned down and murdered, alongside 6 other beautiful people while attending church on a Sunday morning. This gruesome reality was created by a conservative neo-Nazi man who learned to fire his weapon in the United States Army. The attack at the temple was the worst race-based attack in America since another Sunday morning in September of 1963. In Birmingham, Alabama, 4 little girls were killed climbing down the steps of the 16th Street Baptist Church by a Ku Klux Klan bomb. A march on Washington was planned later that year in August of '63. The movement culminated on these steps in this spot when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who had studied the Gandhian principles of ahimsa and civil disobedience, articulated and chiseled in his finest hour the very history we now celebrate. His sword in battle, his refrain was unscripted and profound.
Because I have a dream.
He didn't say, I have an African American dream, or an Asian American dream, or for that matter, even a Finnish dream. He called to the heavens in a voice endowed by his Creator, and he spoke.
No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Now we gather here 50 years to the day to pick up where he left off. To breathe life into his words because he was gunned down, assassinated by the conservatives of his time, before his time, much like my father. Every year we lose great American black leaders like this. They just happen to be 17 in Sanford, Florida, or the inner city. Every year as a country we lose $400 billion due to just gun violence alone. The conservative leaders of our society, many times behind closed doors or on secret reservations, have falsely proclaimed time and time again, war is good for economy. Violence is all right as long as it's not in my neighborhood. From war, they sadly say manufacturing jobs are born, technology advances. From war, they wrongly assume the internet was invented. We built war corporations with early battles with the British, the Spanish, the Native Americans, and of course, ourselves. Now we have flooded the national psyche with violence and a thirst for blood in order to keep feeding archaic war machines. The culture of greed works in this way. These seeds of war, violence, and injustice will continue to grow, especially when profiteers come to the well from so many different directions, from both sides of the political aisle. They make it harder to vote and make it easier to own a gun. They spit on the voting rights bill that Dr. King and so many sacrificed for, and we stand here and watch it happen. Sorry to say, Mr. President, we are not the United States of America. We are the violent states of America. Our common enemy is not just racism and injustice, not just violence and rage. Our common enemy is poverty. There are a select few living off the fat of the land and the people. The rest of us, well, if a man works 50 hours a week at minimum wage, he'll still be near the poverty level. If his wife decides to do the same, they might make it. But what about the kids? Who's going to be home for them? Do us a favor, Mr. President, and carry this message. Tell those in Congress and those in the C-level suites, we're waking up. We are starting to take note on how this game works. We tab the costs of violence and the profits of peace. If our inner cities and central core were pacified, then property values would climb to all-time highs. Not just in those areas, but in all surrounding areas, if not the state, if not the nation. Businesses would flourish, property crime would drop. We would shift from building prisons to building classrooms, from defeating our kids to teaching our kids, from fighting wars to fighting poverty. People like me and my family and all those who have been affected so intensely might even say that peace is priceless. Over these past 4 decades, unnecessary gun violence cost us $12 trillion. Unnecessary war campaigns cost us another $30 trillion. If we had that money all over again, we could rebuild from scratch every school, every courthouse, every major bridge, and every university all across this great land. In these past 40 years, where there were almost 500,000 people murdered by guns, over 6 mass shootings and bombings, 7 major war campaigns, we could have ushered in a new age of peace in America. A new vision. What some might even call a dream. These words, which are rarely used together, America and peace, would have headlined an era of American leadership in new energy research, green technology, international diplomacy, mediating and ending dozens of worldwide conflicts, many of which we helped fuel. In this Pax Americana, we would catch up to the rest of the developed world in math, science, literature, and art, ushering a new dawn of one of the most advanced civilizations history has ever known. However, over these past decades, sadly, this is not what we have done. Through ignorance and obstruction, we asked our men and women to grow wary of our laws, politicians, and justice system. We made it harder for them to vote. We made it easier for corporations to buy out politicians. Now, our people rightfully double-guess the intent of major corporations and governments alike. We asked the great American public to travel back in time to the Wild Wild West, where they sadly attempt to take justice into their own incapable hands, like with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. This unnecessary death and racial attack, yes, I said racial attack, epitomizes the economic and cultural loss we have faced. When I'm at a loss for words, I listen to kings.
Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
With his words, I'm invigorated, not only with the strength of my Creator, but by and with you. Those who stand side by side in solidarity to make right that which has been so gravely wrong. Dr. King's light is that of hope, justice, morality, and ethics. It is the light that comes from within and speaks to every human in their darkest hour, and thus ultimately speaks to you. It whispers. The moral arc of the universe bends to the good, to the just, to the warmth, to the light. In order to make this future of peace and prosperity our next reality, we must let our superficial divisions wash away. There is no such thing as race. We are not the black race. We are not the white race, nor the Latino race, nor the Hebrew race, or the Arabic race. We are not the Indian race, nor the Chinese race. We are the human race. We must not look to the past and assume this was the best we could do economically or socially. We must look to the future and dream. We dream to fly above an unjust reality right here on earth. We must land right back on it in order to work and chisel away. We must repair. We must march. We must participate in the society we desire to live in. one never before seen on this land or on the face of this planet, one that our great-great-grandchildren will reference when they speak of the light in human civilization, the spark in the dark. We must take Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream and make it a reality. Ultimately, we will dawn a new age together, the Pax Americana. These two words rarely used together, America and peace, will be exalted from the mountaintops in every nook and cranny of this great nation and the planet Earth. When this will be done, those who have been taken far before their time, like the 14,000 who were taken by a gun this year, like Trayvon Martin, like Dr. King Jr., like my father, would not have sacrificed their love and their life in vain. Thank you.